Hey everyone, welcome back to Quest Voyages. Join me as we dive into a world of geopolitical intrigue that would make a John le Carré novel look like child's play. We're talking about the Second World War, people, and specifically 5 of the most head-spinning alliance switches you'll ever encounter. Buckle up. Most folks think they've got World War II figured out, allies versus axis, good versus evil, right? But when you really dig into it, you start to see a different picture, one painted in shades of grey. In a conflict as massive and chaotic as World War II, survival often meant making impossible choices. Choices that could see nations switching sides, sometimes more than once. Over the next hour, we're going to journey into the heart of these tumultuous times. We'll explore the motivations, the betrayals, and the sheer audacity of these alliance shifts. So if you're ready for a wild ride through history's Hall of Mirrors, then hold on tight. Let's get started.
Our first stop takes us to the frozen north, to a land of vast forests and even larger reserves of courage. Finland. The year is 1939. The world watches in horror as Hitler unleashes his blitzkrieg. But for the Finns, the threat comes from the east. Stalin, hungry for territory and determined to secure Leningrad, sets his sights on Finland, triggering what would become known as the Winter War. Imagine a nation of less than 4 million people, facing down the might of the Red Army. Yet, the Finns fought like cornered wolves, utilizing their knowledge of the terrain, their marksmanship, and their sheer tenacity to inflict staggering losses on the invaders. The world was amazed, but wars of attrition are brutal affairs, and despite their heroism, the Finns were eventually forced to cede territory to the Soviets. Fast forward 3 years, and we find Finland fighting alongside Nazi Germany. The continuation war was Finland's attempt to reclaim their lost lands. Some argue it was a marriage of convenience, a temporary alliance born out of desperation. Others see it as a colossal miscalculation, one that would cost Finland dearly in the long run. But whatever your stance, one thing is undeniable. Finland's wartime alliances were a tangled web of pragmatism, opportunism, and ultimately, tragedy. Think about it. A nation that had so valiantly defended itself against Soviet aggression just a few years prior was now fighting arm in arm with the Nazis. It's enough to make your head spin, isn't it? So stay with me as we continue our journey through the labyrinthine alliances of World War II.
Hold on to your hats, folks, because we're about to enter the swirling vortex that was the Balkan front during World War II. Here, 3 nations, Bulgaria, Hungary, and Romania, played a dangerous game, first aligning with the Nazi war machine, only to later switch sides in a desperate bid for survival. Bulgaria, with deep historical ties to Russia, found itself drawn into the Nazi orbit in the early 1940s. Enticed by territorial gains, Bulgaria joined the Axis powers in 1941, but refused to declare war on the Soviet Union. Hungary, eager to regain its former glory, threw in its lot with Hitler. But as the war progressed, cracks appeared in Hungary's commitment to the Nazi cause. Romania, caught between the Soviet Union and Nazi-controlled Balkans, allied with Germany to protect its oil fields. Treated as a vassal state by the Nazis, resentment simmered in Romania. In 1944, with the Red Army advancing and Allied forces tightening their grip, the writing was on the wall. Germany was going down. Bulgaria, Hungary, and Romania began to jump ship.
From the frozen north and the volatile Balkans, we journey now to the sun-drenched shores of the Mediterranean, to a land synonymous with ancient grandeur and, well, questionable wartime decision-making. That's right, folks, we're talking about Italy. Now, we all know about Benito Mussolini, the strutting dictator who dreamed of resurrecting the Roman Empire. Problem was, his military resembled something closer to a legion of overdressed gladiators than a modern fighting force. From the disastrous invasion of Greece to the embarrassing defeats in North Africa, Italy's military blunders became the stuff of legend. But it wasn't just military incompetence that spelled trouble for Mussolini. As the war dragged on and Allied bombs began raining down on Italian cities, the once adoring public grew increasingly disillusioned with their bombastic leader. By 1943, with Allied forces closing in on Sicily, the situation for Mussolini had become untenable. The once feared Duce found himself outmaneuvered by his own people, ousted in a palace coup, and unceremoniously arrested. With Mussolini out of the picture, Italy's new government, led by Marshal Pietro Badoglio, did what any sane group of people in their position would do. They sued for peace. On September 8, 1943, the Italian government announced their armistice with the Allies. The news sent shockwaves throughout the world. For the Allies, it was a major propaganda victory. For Germany, it was a strategic nightmare, opening up a new front in the heart of their occupied territory. Italy's surrender marked a turning point in the war, exposing the fragility of the Axis alliance.
Now, our journey takes us to the heart of Europe, to a land of soaring mountains, waltzing melodies, and a history inextricably intertwined with that of its more powerful neighbor, Germany. This, my friends, is Austria, a nation often overlooked in the grand narrative of World War II, yet one that played a surprisingly significant, albeit largely hidden role. Remember 1938? The world watched in stunned silence as Hitler, emboldened by his bloodless conquest of Austria, marched his troops into Vienna. The Anschluss, as it was called, was met with mixed emotions in Austria. Some, swept up in the tide of Nazi propaganda, welcomed the union with open arms. Others, though, watched with apprehension. For within Austria, a silent resistance began to take root. These weren't the gun-toting partisans of occupied France or the saboteurs of the Warsaw Ghetto. No, these were ordinary Austrians. Teachers, factory workers, artists, housewives, men and women who refused to accept Nazi ideology. Their resistance was subtle, often invisible to the watchful eyes of the Gestapo. They spread anti-Nazi propaganda, sheltered Allied airmen shot down over Austria, and provided intelligence to the Allies. They were the whispers in the dark, the acts of defiance hidden in plain sight. Imagine the courage it took to defy the Nazis, knowing that discovery meant imprisonment, torture, or even death. Yet these unsung heroes risked everything because they believed in a better future for their country. Their actions, their courage, their unwavering belief in a better tomorrow played a vital role in undermining the Nazi regime from within.
And now, for our final act, we return to the Balkans, to a land where history is written in blood and betrayal. Romania, a nation caught in the crosshairs of great power politics, a pawn in a deadly game played by dictators and emperors. But in the annals of World War II, Romania's story isn't just one of shifting loyalties, it's a tale of audacious gambles, of kings and coups. Cast your minds back to August 1944. The tide of war had turned decisively against the Axis powers. The Red Army was advancing relentlessly westward. Romania, having already tasted the bitter fruit of its alliance with Hitler, found itself staring down the barrel of a Soviet gun. But amidst the chaos and uncertainty, a glimmer of hope emerged from King Michael I. Michael recognized that Romania's only hope lay in a radical break with the past. And so, in a move that stunned the world, King Michael, with the support of the Romanian military and opposition political parties, launched a daring coup d'etat. Antonescu was arrested, the pro-Nazi government toppled, and Romania switched sides, declaring war on its former Axis allies. Imagine the shockwaves that reverberated through Berlin and Moscow. The impact of Romania's defection was seismic. Overnight, the Red Army gained access to the Ploiesti oil fields, depriving Germany of a crucial source of fuel for its war machine. King Michael's gambit ultimately paid off, securing his place in the pantheon of World War II heroes.
So, there you have it, folks. 5 tales of alliances forged, broken and reforged in the crucible of World War II. From the frozen forests of Finland to the sun-drenched shores of Italy, from the volatile Balkans to the heart of Nazi-controlled Europe, we've journeyed through a labyrinth of shifting loyalties, audacious gambles, and stunning reversals of fortune. As we've seen, the Second World War was more than just a clash of ideologies. It was a struggle for survival, a global conflict in which the lines between right and wrong, between friend and foe, were often blurred beyond recognition. In such desperate times, alliances became fluid, pragmatic arrangements, dictated as much by self-preservation as by shared values. Thanks for watching. If you'd like to share your thoughts on these alliance switches, please do subscribe and leave them in the comments below. And if you're interested in learning more about WWII strategies, be sure to check out our video on the most daring commando raids of the war.